All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Samantha from the law offices of Samantha Wolfe, and we're here for our monthly virtual seminar. So thank you so much for joining us. Our office is located at 20 East 6th Street in Suite 206. This is a picture of our office. You can reach us at 717-655-2676. And we always offer consultations. So if you listen to this seminar, you have questions or concerns, you're always welcome to give us a call and we can do an initial consultation. The other thing to know is that we do post all of our videos on YouTube. So to the extent that you enjoy this monthly seminar, you can check us out on YouTube and watch our previous monthly seminars, as well as we try to do short videos along the way. So with that being said, welcome to this month's seminar. Today we're focusing on Social Security. The reason that we do these seminars is part of our mission statement, where we really feel like it's part of our job to be making sure we educate our clients and referral sources so that they have the most up-to-date information. So today is the Tangled Web We Weave Social Security. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I just want to let you know, just by way of background, when I was putting together the presentation for today, this is one topic where I felt like, my staff always tells me that I talk too long and, in these seminars, but this is the first one where I felt like I could actually break it down into multiple smaller virtual seminars. So don't be surprised if we break this down into smaller digestible pieces, because there's just so many moving parts and things that I don't know that people really can understand about the Social Security Administration. So my goal today is to hopefully give you like a map where we can fill in so you can kind of understand just how the whole structure works. So when we're talking about that, the first thing we have to do is start off with the history of Social Security and the purpose of Social Security. So it was first created in 1935 as part of FDR New Deal, where the Social Security Administration, which was originally called the Social Security Board, this came out of the desire to assist millions of retired or elderly Americans who had lost everything in the Great Depression. And after the program was launched, then it was expanded to help children, widows, and disabled people who might otherwise be destitute. So I wanted to let you know that that's why we have this program. So let's talk about how it works. So what is Social Security today? So today, the Social Security Administration is an independent agency of the federal government. It still oversees social insurance programs, each within specific requirements that must be met to be eligible to collect benefits. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these different benefits. But I guess the headlining news, which I'm sure anybody who's watching the news or is receiving Social Security knows, that this is the largest cost of living adjustment that was announced in October. So it's going to go to 8.7% boost in payments beginning in January. This is the largest jump since the one in 1981, which was 11.2%. So specifically, the average monthly payment for retired workers will spike from $1,681 in 2022 to $1,827 in 2023. So I wanted to make sure, I'm sure a lot of you who are experiencing receiving your Social Security checks already know this, but I always like to start off with a positive. So know that the annual cost of living adjustment is required by law. The increase will begin benefits that Social Security beneficiaries received, and it's going to be starting January. It increased the payment technically December 30th of 2022. And what happens is the Social Security Administration mails out these cost of living notices throughout the entire month of December. They were mailing them out. However, you didn't have to wait to get your mailed notice. You could go onto the My Social Security account that you have if you've created one. And usually there was a message in their message center that let you know what your adjusted, inflated Social Security amount was. So I'm sure all of you have experienced this over the last month or will over the next few weeks. So just as the average monthly Social Security payout will increase in 2023, so too will the maximum benefit. So for 2022, the top payout for Social Security retirement benefits for an individual was $4,194. In 2023, that's going to jump to $4,555. So for 2022, the Social Security earnings wage base was $147,000, but for 2023, that jumps all the way up to $160,200. This means high earners will have to pay Social Security taxes on any additional $13,200 of their income in 2023. So now that we've kind of given you some background, some good news, let's shift to some commonly asked questions before we dive into the different programs. So a lot of times I'll get a question of how do I change or correct my name on my Social Security card. So usually we see this happen when people get married, divorced, those type of situations. So if you legally change your name because of marriage, divorce, or a court order, you need to correct your name. You have to tell Social Security so that you can get a replacement card with your correct name. And to get that name corrected on your card, you'll need to complete the application for Social Security card. And most of these, if it has it underlined, there's actually a direct link to that application. And then you have to show the Social Security Administration the required documents. So usually they're going to look for documentation that shows your identity, your new legal name, the change event as to why you need to change your name. And sometimes you also have to prove your current U.S. citizenship or lawful non-citizen status in order to be able to do that. But we had somebody in here just this week who their Social Security card has a different name than like their driver's license or their passport. And so I was encouraging them that they might want to make sure that those multiple identification items match for the future. Another question I get is, how do I get my Social Security statement? So you can get your Social Security statement online by using the My Social Security account. That online statement does give you secure and convenient access to estimate your retirement, disability, and survivor's benefit. And we're going to go over each of those so that everybody understands what they are. So you can get it online and see whether you or your family may be eligible for it. It's also going to show your current earnings, your record, your history. And so you can get on there, create an account, and actually view that. If you haven't created a personal My Social Security account and you do not currently receive Social Security benefits, the Social Security Administration will mail out a paper statement to you 3 months before your 60th birthday. And if you don't want to wait for that scheduled mailing, then again, you're going to get online and request that statement, or you can request it. It usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks, so you can call and request it as well. All right, so now we've done all the background information. Let's talk about 3 ways you can get Social Security benefits. So I wanted to break it down so that we could kind of imagine this. I'm really good with visuals. So again, there are going to be 3 buckets of Social Security benefits we're going to go over today. So we have the retirement benefits, that's one bucket. We have survivor benefits is their second bucket. And then we have our third bucket, which is disability benefits. So know that these are all under the umbrella of federal insurance programs under the Social Security Administration. That's the agency that administers these 3 programs. So I wanted to give you a summary. So know that we're going to go over each benefit, but here are some key takeaways that we're going to go over. So the first is that the Social Security Administration oversees social insurance programs that provide retirement, survivor, and disability benefits to Americans. To qualify for retirement benefits, a worker must pay into Social Security, earning 40 credits over a minimum of 10 years. The reason why it's a minimum of 10 years is because annually you could only accrue 4 credits. So to get the 40 credits you need to get the retirement portion in the retirement bucket, to get that benefit, minimal time it takes you to do that is 10 years. And you cannot make a claim before you're age 62. Now, this second point is talking specifically about your own retirement benefit, because we're going to talk about situations in which other people can claim on your own retirement benefit. So just know that you cannot make a claim for your retirement amount until age age 62. Spouses and children may also be able to claim Social Security survivor benefits based on a worker's earning history. And then lastly, the summary is only workers who meet the SSA, the Social Security Administration's strict definition of disability, and have earned enough credits are eligible for the disability benefits. All right, so let's talk about bucket one. Remember, we have the three buckets. We have retirement benefits, we have survivor benefits, and then we have disability benefits. So this is our first bucket. This is the retirement program of the Social Security Administration. It's the largest wing of the organization. It provides retirees and their dependents. They account for approximately 75% of the total Social Security benefits that are paid. While employed, you're going to pay a 6.2% Social Security tax on earnings up to a maximum amount. In 2022, that was $147,000, and your employer pays a matching 6.2%. If you're self-employed, then you're responsible for the entire 12.4%. So I do get that question a lot for people who are self-employed. Sometimes I have people that assume if they're self-employed that they can't get the retirement bucket of Social Security, and that is not correct. So here at my office, I have employees, but then I'm also considered self-employed. So for my employees, the employee pays 6.2%. I, as the employer, pay 6.2% towards their Social Security. And then for myself, I pay the entire 12.4%. So I wanted to make sure to mention that. And then the money that you pay into Social Security today goes to provide monthly benefits for current retirees and other Social Security recipients. So how do you qualify? And remember, we're still under the first bucket, which is the retirement benefits. So to qualify for Social Security retirement benefits, you generally need to have worked for at least 10 years. And then what happens is the Social Security Administration assigns credits to your paid taxes. So for 2022, you earned 1 credit for every 1,510 in your earnings, with a maximum of 4 credits earned each year. Most people will need 40 credits before they can claim their Social Security retirement benefits. And we're going to talk about those individuals that don't need 40 credits in some of the later slides. It does take a minimum of 10 years in the workforce to accrue credits necessary to apply for the retirement portion of Social Security. And when they're calculating what your monthly benefit is, the Social Security Administration uses the highest 35 years of indexed earnings. So as the theory being, as you age and get closer to retirement, there may be years that drop off where you have lower earnings because they take the top 35 years of the highest earning. All right. Still talking about the first bucket, the retirement benefits. Many people still think of age 65 as the age to retire, but that changed. And it had to change because we had so many people kind of using the Social Security benefit that applied to so many people that they actually had to shift the age a little bit. So if you're born between 1943 and 1954, then 66 is considered your full retirement age. If you're born in 55, it's 66 and 2 months, and you're going to see as the years go, the months tick up. And so right now, if you're born 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. If you delay your retirement, because remember, you can start claiming this retirement benefit at age 62. You can start claiming it at 62, but you aren't considered fully retired until this age, 66, all of that. But if you delay the retirement until age 70, then you will increase the Social Security benefit. The percentage does depend on the year that you were born, with a maximum of an 8% increase in your monthly benefit. However, you can also choose to start collecting Social Security benefits as early as age 62, but the benefits are reduced. And at the close of the seminar, we're going to talk about strategies, how to determine what's the best for you to claim and what age you should be and how you kind of factor that in. But again, still talking in the first bucket about retirement benefits, what about your spouse and children? So one of the things I want to make clear, and that's why I kind of organized the PowerPoint this way, is that In these three buckets, the retirement benefits, the survivor's benefit, and then the disability benefit, they're all about occurring at different times. So our retirement benefit, when we're in the first bucket, it means that you are still living, you're getting a retirement benefit from Social Security. However, your spouse and children may also be eligible while you're living for a benefit under the retirement benefits of Social Security. And I want to make that clear because when we get to the disability bucket, certain surviving spouse and children also have claim against the disability portion of it. Okay, so the retirement benefits are benefits that the individual worker is able to claim because they're still living, plus your spouse and children may also have the ability to claim and get a benefit off of your work history. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. Sometimes we have clients who, may be getting SSDI, and that may be a benefit from a parent who was on disability. So I wanted to make that distinction. So a spouse and children can also receive a benefit under the retirement benefits of Social Security. So your spouse can receive Social Security benefits once you retire, even if they never worked outside the home. So sometimes we have situations where maybe wife, was a stay-at-home mom, homemaker, and maybe never worked in the workforce. So in this case, wife in that situation would still be able to claim Social Security off her spouse's record. So your spouse has to be at least 62 years old, and then they can apply for benefits at the reduced rate. If they wait until full retirement age, however, your spouse can receive up to 1/2 of the amount of your monthly benefits. Remember, this is while you are living, your spouse can do that. Payments received by your spouse aren't going to lower your own benefit or your own payment that you're receiving. And your ex-spouse can also collect Social Security retirement benefits based on your earnings. To qualify, ex-spouses must meet the following conditions. The marriage must have lasted for at least 10 years. 2 or more years must have passed since the divorce. You must not have remarried, and you must be at least 62 years old and must not qualify for a higher Social Security benefit based on your own employment history. So we do have some situations where we have some divorced spouses who are claiming off of their divorced spouses retirement benefit under Social Security. So I wanted to make sure. We also have situations where sometimes people won't remarry because then they will lose that benefit. All right, let's advance, Jess. Let's see what else we got here. So the next question related to retirement benefits is, can I collect spousal Social Security benefits if I earned my own Social Security benefit? The answer to that is yes. However, just like anything with the Social Security Administration, there's a much more in-depth explanation. So technically, you're receiving both benefits on your spouse's earning record and your own retirement, but you only get the higher of the two amounts. So this is how the Social Security Administration looks at it. They'll say we're not going to combine them, but rather compare them to each other. So technically, the Social Security Administration is paying your retirement benefit first and then adding enough of your spousal benefit to make the difference to match the higher amount. So technically, the Social Security Administration is saying, yes, we're paying you both a spousal benefit and you're also getting your own Social Security. But technically and logistically, it's really the higher of the benefit, because the way Social Security looks at it is first is your benefit, then you are getting the spousal benefit, but only in the amounts to increase it to the higher. So that's how they analyze that. So the spousal benefits are based on your spouse's full benefit, and that would be the amount they're entitled to receive from the Social Security Administration at full retirement age, and that's currently between age 66 and 67. You can claim as early as 62, but like we talked about, just like the retirement benefits, you can get it, larger if you wait. If you're born after January 1st, 1954, there's a deeming rule, which just says when you apply for a retirement benefit, the Social Security Administration deems you to be filing for spousal benefits as well if you're eligible for them, and you'll receive the higher amount. Collecting a benefit on the spouse's earnings does not change that spouse's benefit amount, and you cannot collect benefits on the record of a current spouse who has not filed yet or has suspended his or her own retirement plan. Which brings us to our next slide. And I wanted to do a slide devoted to this because I have clients that still ask about this strategy. It was the file and suspend strategy. So if this sounds familiar, it used to be something you can do. And what it allowed is that it allowed your spouse to collect a spousal benefit based on your earnings, that's the worker's earnings, while you delayed the start of your own benefit. So the thought is that if the working spouse said, I'm going to delay my retirement, collecting the retirement benefit of Social Security until I'm age 70, I can file and suspend it, meaning you're not going to take it, which would allow the spouse to file to get the spousal benefit earlier while the working spouse waited until 70 to receive that. So your spouse can't collect a spousal benefit based on your earnings until you've applied for your own Social Security. So this changed in November of 2015. The Social Security Administration changed their rules where file and suspend strategy is no longer available for couples, but I still get questions about it. So it worked for those couples who filed and suspended prior to April 30th of 2016. You can now not use this strategy. You can still suspend your benefits, but your spouse isn't going to receive a spousal benefit while your benefits are in suspension. If you file for benefits early and then continue to work, you can suspend benefits so that when you restart, you get more benefits. So if you file at age 62, but you suspend it until 70, the benefit is theirs that you do get the higher benefit. And again, as we looked at in the previous slides, to the maximum of 8% more. So there is no benefit to suspending benefits past age 70. So at age 70, everybody needs to be taking their benefits. But I wanted to have a slide specifically for this because, like I said, sometimes we still get asked about the file and suspend strategy. All right, we're still under bucket number one, still talking about retirement benefits. This is what if you remarry? So this is a specific slide I put in because I'm working on a situation where we had husband and wife passed away, it's been a couple of years, husband is remarrying, and the gal he's remarrying also had a deceased spouse, and she's collecting Social Security retirement benefits off of that spouse. And so the question is, what if you remarry? What benefit do you get? So you cannot get widow or widower benefits if you remarry before the age of 60 or age 50 if you have a disability. Remarriage after age 60 or age 50 if you have a disability won't prevent you from getting benefit payments based on your former spouse's work record. At age 62 or older, you can get benefits on your new spouse's work record if those benefits are higher. So the rule of thumb is you get whatever is the higher one. You can keep your former spouses if they had a higher retirement benefit, or at age 62 or older, you can apply for the benefit under your new spouse's work history. So I wanted to make sure to mention that because we do have situations where that comes up. So this is the next slide shows a chart here where it talks about full retirement age and the percentage you get if you take your Social Security prior to. So assume your full retirement age is 67. And then this chart shows the percentage of benefits you receive each month based on the age at which you begin collecting. So if we assume 67 was your retirement age, if you start taking at 62, you get 70% of the monthly benefits that you would get. If you waited till 67, you'd get 100% of the benefit. So the percentage of benefit increases for each month you wait. So if you were 62 and 6 months old when you first received benefits, your benefit amount will be 72.5% of the total benefit. And that would be in between the respective amounts for ages 62 and 63. And then the chart shows the exact percentages. So still under retirement benefits, still the first bucket that we're under, eligible children can collect Social Security benefits based on a parent's work record as long as the parent has earned enough Social Security credits. And remember, maximums 4 credits per year for a minimum of 10 years to earn the credits. So, and I also want to pause here. This is not the survivor's benefit that we're going to get to, which is our second bucket, because this means that the worker is still living. You're still living, but yet certain eligible children, just like the previous slides, spouses. So the Social Security Administration allows for certain benefits even while you're collecting your own retirement benefits. And I want to make that really clear because we're going to talk about survivor benefits next. So eligible children can receive Social Security benefits based on your retirement benefit. If you reach retirement age and you have children who are below the age of 18 or 19 and they're still and 19 if they're still enrolled in elementary or secondary school, or older than 18 but severely disabled as long as the disability began before they turned age 22, then those children would qualify to receive benefits based on your monthly entitlement. So again, children have to be 18 or younger, or they can be 19 if they're still enrolled in school. It can be past age 18 as long as they meet the definition of disabled that the Social Security Administration uses. The child must be unmarried. Your children can receive the monthly payments up to 1/2 of the amount in which you're entitled, and these payments will not decrease your Social Security benefits. The limit for benefits received by your spouse and children varies, but normally 150% to 180% of your full retirement benefits. And once your child, if they would marry, then the benefit ends. And if a child is working, because again, you could be, for example, age 17 and working, if the child is working, the usual earning limits apply. So Social Security will deduct $1 in benefits for every 2 earned over the annual cap, which in 2023 is $21,240. So the child still gets the benefit, but it may be reduced if they're working based on how much they're earning. Then we have this nice pie chart that just says, when is retirement? It kind of breaks down the percentages of what people's retirement is comprised of. So Social Security typically is considered 33% of an individual's retirement amount. Okay. We are now finished bucket number 1, which is retirement benefits under Social Security. We're moving to our second bucket, which is Social Security survivor benefits. And I have in parentheses retirement because this is not related to the disability bucket. This is a survivor's benefit when the individual, the worker that's receiving the retirement benefit, it's when they pass away. They're no longer receiving this retirement benefit. However, Social Security still allows spouses and children under certain circumstances to still get a retirement benefit, but they call this the survivor's benefit. So let's talk about this bucket. So this is our number 2 bucket. So some of your Social Security taxes do go towards the survivor's benefits for workers and families. The value of the survivor's benefit is most likely more than the value of your individual insurance. The difference between the survivor benefit and the retirement benefit is the individual must be deceased, meaning that if we're talking about a husband and wife, husband has passed away and wife is collecting the survivor's benefit in that situation. So let's talk about this. So even after you die, Social Security can continue to pay benefits to your spouse and children, and even to your parents if you were supporting them while you were living. So for your family to receive survivor benefits, you'll need to have earned at least 6 Social Security credits in the 3 years before your death. And also know that this is in addition to the one-time lump sum payment of $255. Now, again, the $255, that's been the amount as long as I've been practicing. And Obviously, this benefit amount, although it's nice to have $255, people are always like, why, is it that small amount? So this goes to your spouse, or it may be to children who qualify. So this is a death benefit, one-time lump sum payment. And know that when you pass away, the funeral director is typically the one who notifies the Social Security Administration of the decedent's death. And then you would get the lump sum $255. So the eligibility for survivor benefits, in addition to that lump sum, is that the surviving spouse has to be at least 60 or older. Surviving spouse is 50 or older and disabled. The surviving spouse of any age who is caring for a child who's younger than age 16 or is disabled. An unmarried child who's younger than age 18. Children younger than 19 and enrolled in elementary or secondary school, or children older than 18 who were severely disabled prior to age 22. This can apply to stepchildren, grandchildren, step-grandchildren, or adopted children. Your surviving parents, if age 62 or older, if they were dependent on you for at least half of their support. So you're going to see a lot of these eligibility criteria or benefits are things that we saw on the retirement side while somebody was still living. So again, the difference between while they're getting retirement benefits or that first bucket is that the individual is still living. This is considered a survivor's benefit. So we're in the second bucket for this one, but they use a lot of the same criteria or eligibility requirements. Special rule, if you've worked for only 1.5 years in the 3 years just before your death, the Social Security Administration can pay benefits to your children and your spouse who are caring for children. Okay, so we've covered the first bucket, which is the retirement benefits. The second bucket is survivorship benefits for the spouse and the children. Again, it's still considered a retirement benefit. It's just that the individual, the worker whose record it's based on, has passed away if we're dealing under the survivor benefits under that second bucket. The third bucket is Social Security disability. Sometimes you'll see it, the acronym SSDI for this. So again, this is all under the Social Security Administration. This is considered a federal insurance program. And this is for workers who have developed incapacitating disabilities. In addition to having an eligible disability, you must have previously worked long enough, which is 10 years, although younger workers do have different rules, and I have a slide talking about that, and paid enough Social Security tax to accrue a benefit. Once you're approved, the amount of the monthly check is based on your average lifetime earnings. So this is different than the retirement bucket. This is different than the survivor's benefit bucket. This is if we have a worker who has a disability. The definition of disability under the Social Security Administration is pretty strict. So you only qualify for Social Security disability benefits if you are severely disabled with a condition that entirely prevents your working and is expected to last a year or longer or to result in death. And again, you must have earned enough credits to receive the payments. If you are at least age 62, which means 62 or older, you will need to have earned the full 40 credits to qualify for the disability payments. Younger applicants meet the requirements with fewer credits. Let me take a drink. Down to a minimum of 6 credits for those younger than age 24, as long as credits were earned within the 3 years prior to your disability. The next slide governs people who are younger. So if you're disabled before age 21, you can apply for benefits with only 6 credits as long as they were earned within 3 years prior to your disability. For those between age 24 and 31, eligible applicants must have credit for working half the number of years between 21 and the age in which they become disabled, which is kind of convoluted, but here's an example. If you're 29, you need to have worked for 4 years, because what you do is you take 29, your age 29, minus 21, and that's going to give you 8. You divide that in half, that gives you the 4 years that you have to have worked, and it has to be within the 8 years since you turned 21. For those who are over the age of 31 and become disabled, the credit requirements vary by age, so it can be as few as 20 credits up to the maximum requirement of age 40. The way you determine this is you go to the Social Security Administration website. They have a chart there. You can see the specific amounts for each age. Unless you're legally blind, at least 20 of these credits must have been earned in the 10 years leading up to your disability. So again, we're still talking about the actual worker, and this is a disability benefit that they get under the Social Security Administration. You also have to have been working when the disability began. The next bullet point, your spouse and children may qualify for benefits as well, potentially receiving up to half of the amount to which you're entitled. So I want to give a summary again. Remember, the first bucket was retirement benefits. So this was retirement benefits the worker was getting. In addition, there was benefits that the spouse and children could receive under that bucket. The second bucket was survivorship benefits, and that was if the worker had passed away, there was still some benefit that the survivor, children, or spouse could get. The third bucket is the disability, but you still have the fact that children and spouses can claim if you've passed away. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that under each bucket, there's a benefit you can get while you're living. Plus, when you pass away, then your spouse and children can also qualify for certain benefits under each category. So in this case, your spouse and children may qualify for benefits as well, potentially receiving up to half. For the spouse, if he or she is age 62 or older, or a spouse of any age and caring for a child of yours who is younger than age 16 or disabled. A divorced spouse can claim a benefit if at least age 62 and not currently married, but married to you for at least 10 years. And then a child, if unmarried and younger than age 18, or 18 and older if he or she has a disability, which meets the Social Security Administration guidelines, and that disability started before the child turned age 21. So again, you're seeing a lot of the same criteria for the benefits when someone passes away that the children and spouse can claim. But again, they are actually considered separate benefits. If approved, your disability benefits will begin 6 months after the date when your disability began, and payments are based on your lifetime earnings. Okay, I wanted to put a slide in here talking about supplemental security income benefits, because as an attorney, it seems like people get this confused with Social Security. So know that SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, is under the umbrella of the retirement benefits, the survivor's benefits, and the disability benefits. It's all under the Social Security Administration. SSI, which uses the very similar acronym to SSDI, is considered supplemental security income benefits. So it's not actually Social Security benefits, it's actually supplemental security income benefits. And I wanted to make this distinction because supplemental security income, or SSI, is used to help people who are unable to earn sufficient wages on their own. It's available to adults with disability, children with disabilities, and people age 65 or older. Individuals with enough work history may be eligible to receive SSI in addition to the disability or retirement benefits. So you can have supplemental security income benefits in addition to the retirement benefits that we had in bucket 1 and the disability benefits in bucket 3. And this amount varies based on other sources of income and where they live. This is still administered through the Social Security Administration. It's just that it's not considered Social Security. This is a means-tested benefit. So know that Social Security, the retirement benefit, the survivor's benefit, or the disability benefit are not means-tested benefits, meaning that you don't have to earn less than a certain amount. Those benefits are all based on, did you work a certain number of credits? This supplemental security income benefit, or SSI, is a means-tested benefit. So you must have limited income and assets to qualify for supplemental security income benefits. So as of June of 2022, an individual must have less than $2,000 in financial assets to qualify for SSI. Skip down to generally you have to have income of $1,767 per month or less as of 2022. So think of it this way, there's an asset threshold and there's an income threshold, just like Medicaid. So supplemental security income benefits, or SSI, is a means tested benefit, and it looks more like Medicaid benefits for long-term care services. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that this is not even in any of the buckets we talked about for retirement benefits, for survivor benefits, for disability benefits, because neither of those three ask what your income is. They don't ask what your assets are. It's all based on your work history. This is based on your income and assets. So some assets don't qualify. We have the primary residence and your car. That's going to be exempt assets, just like they would for Medicaid qualifications. And if you receive SSI payments, you likely qualify for Medicaid. So a lot of these benefits overlap, which is why I'm kind of bringing them back into the conversation, because I feel like we can't understand the map of all the benefits unless we kind of talk about all of them and place them where they need to be. All right, so we're going to talk about retirement benefits. So we're back in our first bucket. These are not means tested. This is based on your work history. So the first strategy is collect Social Security at age 62. So a lot of times people take this approach because you have no assurances that you're going to live to the full retirement, and you must live deep into the retirement to make up the difference in the two potential payouts at 62 and the one you can collect until you wait until full retirement age. The other thing I'll mention is that it also depends on whether or not you may be working. So sometimes, and more, we're seeing people working later than age 62. So for example, my dad is one of those individuals. He's still working at his age. So, he could have started collecting Social Security at age 62, but he still has a paycheck coming in every month. And so a lot of times it depends on what retirement income people have coming in or whether or not they're still working. So I encourage people, if they're age 62, to collect Social Security, the retirement benefit, if they need it on a monthly basis to make their bills, to be able to live. Then you want to claim it earlier, because again, you'd have to live so much longer into the retirement for that difference to be made up. That being said, the second strategy is to wait until full retirement age to collect a larger monthly sum. So for example, if we assume your full benefit amount would be $1,000 per month or $12,000 each year, and your full retirement age is 62, your full retirement age is 67. If you're starting retirement benefits at age 62, it would mean more money overall if you don't live past age 79. However, if you live to 79 or older, you'd receive more money during your lifetime if you began earning benefits at age 67. So clients will come in and ask, what age start taking Social Security benefits, and I can advise them as best they can. However, there is an element that we can't account for, and that's how long somebody lives. So in this example, again, if they pass away prior to 79, then the best move was to take it at 62. If they're going to live 79 or older, then it was better to wait to age 67. So when I'm talking with clients about it, we're kind of weighing the cost benefit analysis. Do they need this money to be able to live off of? But we're also looking at things like, how much risk are you willing to take? Do you want to try to get the higher benefit longer into your retirement, meaning older than age 79 in this example? Ultimately, the choice is up to the client, and there's no way to predict which option is better. You just have to look at your facts, circumstances, what your health is like, and determine what is best in that situation. And that is why we like to couple or partner with financial advisors to kind of figure out what makes sense. Because again, you have to account for what do you have in retirement, and how will that affect whether or not you have to take Social Security? So what I wanted to mention here is that most financial advisors say that if you need the monthly income at 62, you should start taking it. And I agree with that. If you can afford to wait, and if you're healthy and believe that you have a longer life expectancy, you may elect to wait and enjoy the extra money when you do start collecting. So I know that there's no clear answer there. It is a case by case basis, but usually we like to talk to the financial advisor and bring them into the discussion with the client so we can figure out what makes the most sense. Okay, to close today, I want to talk about the future of Social Security. So I have some statistics, some figures here. We're going to talk about what is the longevity of the Social Security benefits that you may be receiving. So by the end of 2009, the Social Security program had collected $13.8 trillion in taxes and had distributed $11.3 trillion in benefits. The Social Security was amended in 1983 that changed the age people can collect full Social Security benefits. So that's where we started seeing the creep up at 66, 67. That was as a result of 1983, the amendments that were made. And as a result of the 1983 amendments, the retirement age will increase between 2003 and 2026 from age 65 to age 67, with an 11-year gap at which the retirement age will remain 66, depending on the age of birth. Economic analysts predict that the Social Security system eventually will pay out more in benefits that it receives in payroll taxes. And a lot of this has to do with it's all about the younger workers, paying in so that there's enough for the older retired workers to take. And right now we're dealing with a population where we have a lot more elderly clients, baby boomers, than we do the younger generation at this point. So that's why there's also this imbalance. So analysts have long warned of the shortfall, and they predict the program could be in jeopardy as of 2035. It is anticipated a reduction in benefits of about 13%, or an immediate increase in payroll tax rate from 12.4% to 14.4%, or a little of both, would be needed to allow full payment of scheduled payments for the next 75 years. And I just wanted to talk about this for a second, because especially when I talk with clients, when we see what's happening on the news with different political parties and kind of what they're trying to do, just know that there is a shortfall and that these changes would have to be made. That being said, there's also the political side of it, which is just, is anybody going to be willing to make these changes so that there's not the shortfall? And again, it's not a popular decision, because obviously it's important to our retired citizens. It's an important benefit that they receive. So we'll see how it all plays out in the next couple of years, but I wanted to alert you to this. And I'm sure a lot of you already know this. It gets a lot of news coverage about the shortfalls in the Social Security Administration funding. So I wanted to close with that. Coming up next, February 15th, so the day after Valentine's Day, from 12 to 1, we're going to do a seminar, How to Protect Your Honey. We're going to go over some long-term care protection strategies and how to do that. You can register by emailing Amy at our office. You can call us. You can also go online to our website and register. All right, Jess, let's stop sharing the screen. I'm going to do a closing and then I'll take some questions. So thank you so much for joining us. Today's monthly virtual seminar was the Tangled Web We Weave, talking about Social Security benefits. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out next month where we talk about how to protect your honey. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.